What's going on, folks? Brian Latimer here, and today I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about fall fishing. Finally, we're starting to get to some cooler weather here in South Carolina. I'm excited to get out there and start fishing because I'll be quite honest with you. I love fishing. It's my favorite thing to do. I lose sleep over it all the time. But in the summertime, it can get a little monotonous. So to get a little break in weather, the fish are starting to bite again. I'm ready to get out there, start fishing, and get on to some on fire fall fishing. I'm going to show you some baits that I just got from Carl's Bait and Tackle that you guys definitely need to have. So this is what we have today. We've got a few crankbaits, we've got a few jigs, we've got a chatterbait, we got some baits that we can use for soft plastics for a drop shot, and we got some stuff we can use to flip, like some isolated cover, or pair some of these up with our jigs and chatterbaits as well. You know, talking a little bit about this jig that we got here, you notice that I paired it with the soft plastic creature baits that came in that little box of tackle that I got there. You'll notice I made that guy really compact. I like, when I'm fishing my jigs, I like to make them really small, compact, for a couple of reasons. One reason is, number one, I like to skip my jigs in places where fish are not normally going to see a bait. So under docks, under hanging trees, I'll try to get in the smallest little spot I can, and making that jig a little bit more compact allows me to skip it a little bit better. You know, one thing I really like about this little trailer, this little creature bait trailer, is that it's flat-sided. So, you know, if you guys out there, if you've ever tried to skip a rock before, you can skip a flat rock a lot better than you can one that's round. And so adding that big bulky flat piece of plastic to this jig allows me to skip it and get that bait to really go and float right under those docks, right under a pontoon, right under those underhanging trees. And I like to just put it in there. A lot of times the bass is going to bite on the fall. I don't really leave it there a long time. I'll skip it under the trees, let it sit there for a second. I might jig it once or twice, pull it out, and make the next presentation, because it's target-oriented fishing. If the fish is there, if he's under that dock, if he's on that isolated piece of cover, as soon as that bait hits the water, especially during the fall time of the year like it is now, they're probably going to take the bait. So that's a little bit about how I like to fish the jig. Now let's look at the square bill crankbait. This is just a brim colored little square bill crankbait here, and this is an excellent choice any time of the year. You know, I like to throw crankbaits the best when the water starts to cool down a little bit more. Right now the water's still in the 80s where I live at, and we've got quite some time before the water starts to get in those 60s and 70s, when I think it's prime time to throw a crankbait. But nevertheless, a crankbait can imitate so many different types of forest species, and in this instance we're going to use it to represent either a shad or some type of small pinfish. What do I like to fish it around? You know, square bill crankbait is very versatile, and the best thing about it is it allows you to deflect off of structure really well. So I can throw crankbaits around rock. You know, if you've ever got out and walked around the bank, anytime you see kind of any shade or any kind of little rocks or anything like that along the bank, a lot of times you see little brim. And that's what I like to try to imitate this time of the year, is little brim, little small pinfish. So I'm going to look for areas where I think that particular forage lives. Rocks, bridges, riprap. Hard structure is a great place to fish. That's where the food's going to be this time of the year, and there's not a better bait to use than the square bill crankbait. So make sure when you're fishing a square bill crankbait, be aggressive with it. When I mean by aggressive, run it into things, try to hit it. It's not going to hang up nearly as bad as you would with a minnow style crankbait like you saw us fishing earlier today. With a square bill, you can fish it just about anywhere you want. Think about a spinnerbait. You can put it in places you normally wouldn't be able to put treble hook baits. So we also have a little drop bait that they have here from Somatis Baits. I'm using this guy two different ways. I've got that guy rigged up on a Ned rig head, as you can see here. Maybe we can use that guy to drop on some fish that we'll find on the locator. And then I also have him on a traditional drop shot rig. You can see it there with a little 3/16 ounce sinker. So a lot of these baits, you'll notice that a lot of these baits can double up. You can use them as standalone baits, you can use them as drop shot baits and Ned rig baits. So be creative out there when you're using especially soft plastic. A lot of times with soft plastics, there's several different ways you can use those baits. They can use them as a standalone, or they can enhance other baits. So always remember that when you're using your soft plastics. Let's talk a little bit about the chatterbait here. You notice that I tipped my chatterbait with the exact same trailer that I tipped my normal jig with, but you guys are familiar with the chatterbait, a bladed jig, some guys like to call it. This is a 1/2 ounce Z-Man original chatterbait here. It's sort of like a gore green with the orange tips on it, and I just tipped it with that same creature bait. Today I'm fishing on a lake that has a lot of clear water. It's really hard. I've struggled today to find any kind of stained water. If I had some water with a little bit more color in it, I think this would be the go-to bait to use here. And I'm going to tell you why. This little bait, it shimmies, throws off a lot of vibration. And with it throwing off that vibration, also having that profile that I can switch out the skirts, I can switch out the trailers, it makes it a very, very versatile bait to use. So you know, when you're throwing your chatterbaits, one tip that I want to give you guys when you're trying to throw a chatterbait, one tip I'm going to give you is really pay attention to your trailer. You see I'm using the creature bait trailer here, but let's say if I'm fishing a little bit clearer water and I want to get that bait down, use a little bit less bulky trailer. If I'm fishing around submerged grass and I'm only fishing, you know, the first 16, 18, 24 inches of water, bulk that trailer up. What that's going to do is just let you slow down a little bit and let that bait do its work. You know, I'm not really erratic when I'm working a chatterbait. If I get it bogged down in some grass, yeah, I'll try to snap it free and get it out of that grass. But a chatterbait is a very erratic bait. So it's really important to slow down and just let that bait do the work. It's got such an erratic action. Just on a slow reel, it's really doing a lot. It's doing everything it's designed to do just on a normal reel. So on a chatterbait, be very aware of where you're trying to put that bait in the water column. High, low, middle, so forth. Adjust your trailers accordingly. That is the biggest and best tip that I can give you when fishing a chatterbait. Slow down and pay attention to the type of trailers you use, and you're going to catch a lot of fish using the chatterbait because it's just an awesome bait to use. Minnow style crankbait, that's got to be a great bait to use this time of the year. One thing I do like about the baits that we have in this box today is that they're all small profile, because a lot of times in the fall fish are feeding on smaller bait. They're not like it is in the winter and the spring. Usually you can get away with using bigger baits then. When you're talking about the fall time of the year, you know, a lot of times fish are feeding on this year's shad spawn, and this year's shad spawn is almost always relatively small forage. So as long as you keep your bait small and that shad profile, it's a pretty good chance you're headed in the right direction. Fishing during the fall time is a lot of fun. The weather's starting to break, fishing is going to start to get good. So try some of these baits, try some of these techniques on your home body of water and see which one is most productive for you. And I promise you, you guys are going to catch a lot of fish this fall. Hey guys, so that's all I've got to talk about on these 5 or 6 baits here. Make sure you check out carlsbaitandtackle.com. This place has got every bait that you ever need. You know, going into the fall, there's fish biting a little bit of everything, so you're going to need a lot of tackle to get you through the fall, through that fall period of time of the year where those fish are transitioning to get ready for the winter periods of the year. So hope this helps you out. There's a couple different techniques. There's a lot to talk about, but this is 5 or 6 that I think that we'll skim the surface of, and I hope it'll help you guys catch a lot more fish.